Hey guys, what's up, what's good? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dami, and if you're new here on my channel, I really appreciate you clicking this video. You are welcome. And on this channel, I basically share some of my favorite things to do, some of my favorite things to talk about. So out of the desire to share some of the topics I enjoy, this segment was born, or this series was born, should I say, and it's called Getting Marriage Right. This series was inspired by Black Love and also our love journey here on YouTube by Mplumi Ladwaba and Brendan Praise. So in this series, I am sharing with you a couple of couples that were willing so kindly to share their journey of marriage so far and how it has been, the tips that they would want to share. And I learned a lot from it, and I know that you would as well. But most importantly, how that journey has been with Christ in the middle and how their perspective of marriage completely changes when you have God as your foundation. I think that makes all the difference, and I hope that's what you are able to get from this series as well. Married or not, like I said, I feel like there's something in here for everybody. So sit back and relax, and I hope you really enjoy the next couple of videos on my channel, and I pray that you get something out of it. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you like, what you found interesting, and please share if you do really like it. Thank you so much, and I'm gonna leave you now to enjoy the video. Marriage has been dash.
Marriage has been bliss.
Eventful.
Amazing.
Annoying.
An experience.
An experience.
It's a learning curve, but like a good curve.
If you have to stress that, it's a good curve.
Marriage has been great. It's had its challenges, but nothing that's sort of long-term detrimental. It's been good, and I'm blessed to have a wife like Mary.
Yeah, marriage has been a learning process. Very good. Definitely you think you're a selfless person before you get married. You very quickly realize that you like things a certain way.
We met through church, so we met through youth. I must have been, what, like 15, 16 or something like that. And I think that I actually met your brother before I met you. So Christopher, who's his brother, started coming to youth first. At this point, they weren't coming to our church, so we had no idea who they were. There weren't many boys at our youth. I think it was like a 70-30, like female to male. And eventually, Connor came, and we knew him as like Chris's older brother or whatnot. But I think, is this okay to say? I think at that point, he was kind of like fresh meat. All the guys that were there already, like, you know what I mean, they were either married or like, you know what I mean, so there just wasn't many guys. So when kind of you came, a lot of girls were like, oh, fresh meat. But me personally, I didn't like him like that at first. I think we eventually hit it off as friends. We're very, there was this group chat that we're in. We're just very good friends. We're like the mother and the father of the group. And I think over time that kind of just developed. Like we started like messaging each other outside of the group chat setting and whatnot, and then eventually like that's when feelings started to come in and creep in.
If you wanted to like moan about someone or I wanted to moan about someone, we would usually message each other.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're better people now. That was 5 years ago.
That's what brought us closer together.
It's brought us closer together.
We actually met in Aberdeen. I'd come in for my master's in Aberdeen, and she had come in a couple of months before I came in, so she came in for a master's also. So the first time we ever met was at a friend's graduation party.
For me, I would say first impression when we noticed each other, because at first when we met each other, you know, it was just someone that came with my friend and that was it. But first impression when we noticed each other was, for me, was like, he's smart.
I think we met at King's Community Church. At the time, I was at FOL, and one of the Sundays I'd had a medical sort of procedure, so I couldn't sing in the worship team. I had a few Sundays free, so I went to visit other churches. I think I actually only went to visit King's. I went there for one of the Sundays, and I saw Mary. She was in worship. She was singing the first Sunday, and I went back again the next Sunday, and she was playing keys. And I was like, wow, she's talented and she sings in the worship team. I'd prayed about just going there and being sort of bold enough to go say hello. And I did, but there are so many people talking to her that at the end of the day I decided, no, I'm gonna leave. So as I was leaving, a guy who's my friend now, came over to stop me to say hello as part of the welcome team. And he was from South Africa as well. Me being from Nigeria, we sort of hit it off and had a bit of a sort of mini chat going. And at the end of the conversation, I asked him, can you introduce me to her, please?
And he said, oh, this is my African brother. So I genuinely thought this is a friend of Gareth who's visiting from South Africa. But yeah, so that's how we met. And I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, okay, you know, welcome time. We say hi to people.
It was my internship here. So in Nigerian universities for engineering courses, you have your internship in your 4th year. When I noticed 2 ladies walking with very, very long gowns. And it
wasn't gowns, skirts. Gypsy skirts.
This is one of the things we would argue about forever.
Because it was my skirt.
It was long gowns. One of them was blue and the other was orange. And I noticed the person wearing the orange one, and it was her. And I thought, who are these 2 people that are resuming their internship so late? This is like the 3rd month and they just showed up.
That was our last day.
They just showed up out of the blue.
That was our last day.
So anyway, we sat down next to each other for lunch at the company cafeteria.
No, we didn't.
Okay, we sat down close to each other.
No, I sat on the other side of the cafeteria.
This is the original
and then when
story.
we were about to leave, we now walked. Esosa wanted to say hi.
Grape juice.
Esosa wanted to say hi to a friend of hers that was sitting close to you. That was how we came towards your direction.
Grape juice.
Now you can continue.
And she had this screensaver on her phone, God Jesus, with a question mark. And I thought, she's actually a Christian, okay. First of all, she was cute, pretty, caught my eye. And then, actually, she knows Jesus. She's a Christian. I thought, all right. And then next thing I knew, she was leaving. I thought,
no, you asked me for my screensaver. That's the gist of the screensaver. He said, oh, that's a nice screensaver. Can you share it with me? Then as Bluetooth or infrared or something. So I found a way to give it to you.
I had this screensaver on my phone because she transferred it to me, and that's all I had of her.
First time we spoke
after that meeting, and
I left.
She left. She went back to Ghana to finish her schooling in Ghana, and I was in Port Harcourt. So I got through my internship, went back to school. Had no idea if I'd ever see her again.
Because what attracted me to Kunle was the fact that we were friends. So, you know, at first we'd had no intentions of dating or anything. So it was like real friendship. Like, you know, I could tell him anything. He could, you know, like when you know that there are no expectations, so I didn't have to form, or, you know, in fact sometimes I'll tell him about some guy that was on my case, and, you know, that was how we were. Even spiritually, because I remember the first gift you gave me. Can you remember? It was a Bible. Yeah. So we used to talk, and then we loved, give me a rev, you know, share a revelation or something, and you're like, did you read that? I'm like, oh my God, you know, like we'll share revs and everything. And, you know, there was a way that he broke the Bible down, and it was just like, how do you? So he now introduced me to the Message. So he was the one that introduced me to the Message Bible, because I had not heard of the Message version. So the next thing, I just got a parcel and it was the Bible, you know. So it made our gist even more interesting, because now I had my own version of the Message Bible, and you know that. So those are the kind of things that kind of, you know, started the attraction from my side. I don't know, but
he would call me and check up on me, and then that's when we now started talking. Like I eventually like dropped my guard. I'm like, okay, let's be friends. Maybe we were friends before. Let's just be friends. So he would call me, we'd talk, and I knew that something was going to happen. But before it happened, this was me. I read Oswald Chambers a lot, and one of the things he said was, before you expose your heart, make sure you're going in the right direction. And that was a mistake I made with the past too. I opened my heart without knowing the direction I was going. So I was like, before I come and expose myself, Father, tell me. I didn't feel peace with the other people I had been with, but God wasn't telling me anything, and I felt so much at peace. I was like, oh wow, is deal zilts? Deal zilts!
You know, it wasn't love at first sight at all. I think the attraction for me was when we started to become close, and I started to see that our values were quite similar, very, very similar values. You know, God, family, work than myself, and I saw similar values. Hard working, family was important. God was very obviously very important. So that we called some things non-negotiables. So it wasn't. We couldn't negotiate it. If you're not a Christian, there's no point. We're not. You're not born again. We're not even discussing. There's no point in discussing about it, because the Bible says that you should not be unequally yoked. I have there's a speaker I listen to very much. He says something. He says that if you marry someone who is not a Christian, automatically we know as Christian that person's father is the devil. That you might not have problem with the wife, but you have a problem with your father-in-law. So I always had that at the back of my mind, that you'll have a problem if you marry a non-Christian. You have a problem with the devil, who is the father of the person you're married. So
it sounded strange, but right from the start we needed to know, okay, what like you said, values, so that we know that if it's even worth going into, because if it's not, there's no point. Christian, you are going the long haul, I'm going the long haul, this is it, this is how we're going to do it, and blah blah. It's in fact we said something as deep as, I'm not going to be a housewife, so no. Is that okay with you? I really wanted to know, because there's some men that will say, okay, no, I want you to stay at home, which is fine, but for me that probably wouldn't work. But I needed to know that, so I would say a level of clarity would be great, and I think I got that from straight from.
I think most guys are always in a searching mode. Even if they say they're not.
Right.
Yeah, you're always looking for that person that you can do life with, and if that doesn't work out, you're looking for new friends. I wasn't sort of like dramatically searching, but I had sort of the frame of mind. The most sort of striking prayer that I had was one of the times I used to be at Jesus' house in Holman Street, and one of the days when I was there, it was just me in the church. I'm a bit of I think I've got a mixture of an introverted personality as well as an extrovert, but my introverted personality dominates when I'm alone. So I spend a lot of time in churches just by myself, playing keyboard, singing by myself, or talking to God. And one of the days at Jesus' house, I was talking to God, and I just said to God, Lord, these are the things I want, just right down to every detail. I said to God, if the person you bring me eventually, if she can be in a worship team, that's great. If she can also play the keyboard, that's great as well. I also said, Lord, if she was mixed race, I wouldn't mind as well. And I said, someone that loves you, that helps me fulfill my destiny, and I can also help fulfill a destiny. I was also particular about if she's working or at school, that's great, God. And at the end of the day, while living there, I just laughed and I said, how can you find someone with all these things? I'm being unrealistic. And as time went on, I did meet different people, but they weren't quite it at the end of the day. And, so it was prayer over a period of time, and sort of resisting pressures from family and friends to settle for the people that they think sort of are good matches for me as well.
So I think I was past the searching stage. I felt like, yes, I'd been praying about it, and then I just got to a point where I was like, actually, I'm happy to be single. I'll think about it. I was 22 at the time. I'll maybe get married around age 29, 30. Let me just enjoy
40.
my life. Just travel, work, build my career. So I moved from that zone, and that was my mindset at the time. So when Izzy came up, I just wasn't, no, I wasn't looking, but I had, just like he said, I had kind of sat down and prayed about it before, and told God, the next person that I'm with, I want that person to be my husband. I don't want just any relationship or just relationship after relationship. So I knew if I did get into anything, it had to be the real deal.
But I did need encouragement from my friend, Fola, who goes to FOL. I think at the time, prior to going back to King's the second time, I said a few things to Fola. I said, Fola, number one, I'm a bit older than that she is. She's pretty young as well. So with the difference between us is 8 years. So I'm like, Fola, she's pretty young. And plus I don't have any hair.
Age difference. I remember when I found out his age, I was like, oh, okay.
He's like my grandpa. Get him when they're young. I'm joking now.
I'd always told myself that the first guy I date, I'm going to marry. So as at my final year, I hadn't had a boyfriend or anything.
Okay.
So I now eventually now started dating this Ghanaian guy just as I was about to graduate. And then I came back to Nigeria.
I was in MFM spending.
That was when this brother
cancelling and binding and cancelling every illegitimate contract.
He used to call me. He used to call me and be like, "Hey, how are you? How are you?" And I will not pick. Sometimes I will not pick. He said, "Let's go to cinema." That's when we were in Lagos. "Let's go to cinema." I'll be like, "No, I don't want. I don't want."
For me, was I praying? I was. I think a lot of ladies would say yes, they were. But the tricky thing is, I had just come out of a relationship not too long from then. Okay. So at the point where we met, maybe that was why we were able to be like genuine friends, not expecting anything. Because at that time, I wasn't ready. I was hurt. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on myself. I'm gonna make money work. So I was like the independent woman type thing. And then so I think it was both of us then coming together. We were able to actually have a genuine friendship where we're not thinking, oh, he called me more than 2 times, does that mean, so we didn't have that at all. So, but obviously in my spare time, of course, I was praying that, whenever I'm ready, the right guy would have this, would have that. And also definitely there was that for me.
First love.
She's your first love.
I've never felt like this before. I've prayed and I knew you were the one.
There's no proof of that.
I was like, "Oh, you're too late. Sorry."
And how did you feel?
I didn't give up. I was pretty sure that this was the person I wanted. I was in a choir. I was in a church choir. There's people saying, "Oh, you should look at these single ladies here and here and here." And people were pointing out people in church. And I thought, my mind is somebody else. And she had not said yes at that point, but my mind was with somebody else.
Man of faith.
I felt that attempting to move on to someone else, I was never going to be able to give that person my best. That was settled in my heart. This is the person I want to spend my life with. That was settled, right? So the doubt was now, what if she says no and continues to say no?
I think God gives you what you need. Eventually that's what you find out. God gives you what you need. Ladies would have, tall, dark, handsome, he must be this or he must be lawyer or whatever.
I think it works differently for different people. But I think personally, from my own personal opinion, I think that, I saw this person and that feeling thing. I think you need more than that. That can only sustain you so far in a relationship. I mean, I see a beautiful, elegant lady or something like that, and I got drawn straight to her. You need more than that for marriage, because there will be times when she's not so elegant. There will be times when she is even opposite of what attracted you the first. So you need, and that's one thing that I personally used to tell her when we're dating, that love for me is not a feeling. Love for me is a decision. So it's a cognitive thing. You make a decision that I'm going to love this person, not that I feel like I love this person. They're two different things.
Right.
That's for me personally. But as I said, it works different for different people.
There's this particular friend of mine who she says that she wants to feel it. Man, I don't want to feel it. I'm not going if I don't feel. But she looks at me and says, "Tosin, you're one of the few who didn't feel, but you obeyed." I'm a daddy's girl. I would always say that, and I know my dad knows what's best for me. He might not look it, but I know that if I obey, I'm going to be fine.
So even as a Christian, you don't rush things, because everybody has freedom of choice. So even if you think God said this is the person for you, the person can choose to say no, because God's given everyone freedom of choice. So in the process of doing that, I just wanted to be friends, get to know her, because I find when you get to know somebody, then you find out if you're actually compatible really. And it's not really, because sometimes there's so many people that look like they meet what your expectations are or what you think God has for you, but they're not. So we just became friends. We slowly built our friendship, and over time, the sort of striking thing was her sort of genuine love for God and how sincere she was. And looking at that sort of, in terms of all the other friends that I had, female friends, I was like, okay, she's got a genuine heart for God, and she's got a heart that is very open to learning about culture, learning about my culture being different, being Nigerian, and her being from elsewhere, being from Zambia as well as Scotland. She was open to that as well. So a lot of things fell into place. But ultimately, I was following what I felt the Holy Spirit was saying to me.
It was more than beauty. If it was beauty, I would have been dating someone from my second year at the earliest, I think. But it was way, way more than beauty. It was depth, genuineness.
When we just started going out, but this was a quality that I always appreciated and still appreciate, which is just how kind she was. And I remember she won an award. Those joke sort of awards you get at prom, but you got one for like the nicest person. But it was always just like evident, just watching you interact with anyone and everyone, that you were just nice to people, you were kind to people, you were genuine, you were never like rude behind someone's back unless it was a group chat, stuff like that.
I think for me, what kind of got me was that like when he first started coming to church, like he was quite like he was a new Christian, and what I really loved, like I think I've told you this multiple times, was like how on fire he was for God. Like he used to, like he would organize stuff. Like I remember one point being in, what's that park called in Union Street? The one.
Union Terrace.
Yeah, Union Terrace. I remember there, like he'd organize like the youth to go there, and I remember just standing in a circle and we're just praying for Aberdeen. And for me, like I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this guy, he's not only like, you know, I guess a bit good looking, but like he's, you know, on fire for Christ. And just little things that he would do. Like I remember going to him if I had like a problem, like, oh, can you pray for me about this? I'm sure I probably was like, I had other intentions then, but like, you know what I mean? And I just loved how on fire he was for God, and I think that definitely, yeah, that was like that was a clicking point for me, I would say.
So it was February to October, so yeah. 8 months, yeah.
And was that like with married in mind, or was that just let's see where this goes?
It was. I mean, when I was going to ask her out, I said, I want you to marry me. So it was straight.
Listen, I'm in for the long haul. So if we're going to do this, that's it. If it's not going to work, just let me know now. But I'm not dating. I don't want that. Let's try and see, or let's kick it.
Yeah.
I would like to marry you. So that is it. So that as we are getting to know each other, you have it in mind that whatever you see and you decide to go with it, that's going to be it. So he came with the straight on. Yeah. So for me, like even in our marriage, anything we do, I need clarity. Okay, so is it a yes or a no? So that I know what I'm doing, you know.
And for me, I'm not one of those, I don't know whether I'm going to marry you. So I'm waiting for you to propose before I know.
No, actually, I haven't proposed at this time, that's true.
I knew I was going to marry you. So there's all those waiting for proposal. This thing was not in my dictionary. Let's start planning our life and know what we're doing.
Although, yes, the proposal was August of that year, we were like practically talking about, you know, how will marriage work, you know, where we're going to live, blah, 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 like early that year. And I don't know why I was still so shocked when you proposed, but I think I knew we were getting married. I just maybe thought it would be a longer.
For me, like, because I think I grew up as a Christian, right? So I was like, he was my first boyfriend. Well, he still is. Sorry. But for me, like, I remember my mom always, or was it my mom? I can't remember. Maybe probably it was like someone, if not my mom, like a youth leader or something I've heard her preach. It was like dating with a purpose. And at the end of the day, for me, I'm like, I don't want to date someone just for dating. Does that make sense? I don't want to date someone if I can't see it going somewhere. And although we started dating when I was 16, so although we were quite young and we didn't, like, I didn't really know where it was gonna, like, I kind of hoped it would go somewhere, but at that time you can't really say. This is where yeah, so I think that when I first started going out, I wasn't necessarily like, this is the guy I'm going to marry, but I think that pretty soon, I think for me, more so for me than him, I remember bringing up, I think like maybe like 3 months in or something.
Like, outside Morrison's probably.
Like, no, the guy in my dreams. I'm joking. No, sorry, go on.
No, I was ready, and he'd spoken to my parents already, you know, without me realizing. So it was nice to know, okay, my family are on board with this. But to be honest, if he'd asked me earlier, I would have still said yes. I feel like I made up my mind when we started going out, you know, because like I said before, I didn't want to get into any relationship unless it was going to be marriage. So even back then, just to have peace that, okay, this is going towards marriage was really important to me. And it was just a case of having time to get to know each other. But I would have still been a yes, I feel, if it was earlier.
I mean, why wouldn't you say yes to me, Angela? No. I think your parents would have been happy for you to stay with them forever. She's their only child, so they love her so much. Like, if you don't marry Mary, it's okay.
Well, I was, well, when we got engaged.
I was 20 when we got engaged. No, 21 because it was Christmas Day.
Yeah, Christmas Day we got, that was his 21st birthday.
Yeah. Once I spoke to Ruth about it, I already had it in the back of my head. So let's say like this is now 2017 summer, and then I spoke to Ruth probably in the August or something about it. And then we got engaged in the December. So yeah, it was quite, I mean, it was still a couple of months, but like for a comparison for a big decision like that, I think it was quick.
So we started going out.
11 months after we met.
Yeah.
9 months after we started going out. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So,
but we talked about it before then. I'm sure we're talking about like you had your spreadsheet and everything in April.
Did we?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Just on a side note, I think it is a lot of pressure that we do put, more so in a church setting, that culture of dating with a purpose, because at 16 years old, like you says, you didn't really have like the intention, but you had it in your head, it was in the back of your mind. But at 16 years old, I had just started coming into church. I was new to my walk with Christ, and then it's just like, oh, are you dating Ruth to get married to Ruth? And it's just a lot of pressure to kind of throw on someone at 16 years old. Even in like your teens, even in your 20s, that kind of thrown on to someone as well.
I used to tell my mom then that I wasn't going to get married for another 4 years.
Right.
And she used to say, no, don't say that, you're getting older. So when I came for masters, I actually just said, let me do my masters and let me think of what's next. So it wasn't on my radar then at all. So I don't think that guys who don't voice it out they're not ready. I mean, marriage is a huge responsibility, and no matter how strong a guy is, it's a bit scary. And guys generally, people would tell you that guys are generally commitment phobes, you know. But as Christians, I mean, why date if not for thinking about marriage? What's the point of dating? Because if we say that we're just going to keep trying, you will leave a trail of broken hearts and broken. Aim is that I'm dating to marry. That's the point. So there would always be, even if you don't voice it out, the clarity should be at the back of your mind, but you might not completely say it, because I mean, not all relationships will go through the way we ours, because we already knew each other very, very much. I knew what she liked, I knew this, and we knew so much before we even went to be, and not all relationships will go that way. So it might be that you might say, okay, at the back of my mind, marriage is what it is, but let's see how we get on let's know each other better. And then we might, but you should always, as a Christian, have the end goal in your mind, even if you don't say it out. I mean, there will be time when there will be time for that.
I find the biggest pressure is people's expectations of you. So you don't want to let people down. But the reality of it, as I've learned over time, even in marriage, is that I can't live my life to please people. People will think something and move on, whereas you're still dwelling on that, trying to please them, and you're putting yourself in torment just because you're trying to please people. So focus now would have been, if that was now, I would have spent more time reading God's word, knowing what God says about me, and knowing about God's promises concerning my life, and holding on in faith like they said about Abraham. So, but it's not easy, but that's what I would have done. So I moved away from Aberdeen to go work in Australia for a period of time. So prior to leaving here, a lot of my friends were still at that phase. They were seeing people or people they wanted to marry. So being in Australia, I'd heard quite a few friends had gotten married, and coming back, so my 6-month period in Australia was over. I was supposed to come back, but then I said to God, I just told God, Father, if I go back there, the pressure will be too much for me. Please send me somewhere else. And I didn't do anything else. It was just a prayer. I didn't speak to any companies, didn't speak to anything. And prior to me, a week or 2 weeks prior to me coming back here, my company sent me an email. Would you like to go to Hull in England? So I went there. So that's why I'm saying it's not the best way. I sort of avoided being there for a period of time. And I was in Hull for 2 years before God brought me back here and I met Mary. But if I had come back and I'd have rushed things, I probably have had a lot more relationships that never led anywhere, and a lot more people disappointed in me. In terms of because pretty much if you're getting to know a lady or a girl and it's looking very positive and it doesn't work out because you find out later, there's a lot of broken hearts and people that are unhappy with you in the long term. So that would have been more so.
It was easy to tick off those boxes, so you don't need a long time to, because the length of time is good because it helps you to know each other better. But I think the quality matters more than the length.
It's not in the length, it's in the depth. I think there's some people that will date for 6 months and they have been married for 30, 40 years even. So it's not in the length. I wouldn't say it's how deep they've gotten to know each other. Myself and Kunde might have been together or been friends for like 3 years, and we probably still don't know that much about us. It's what we decide to share. If he didn't share much and I didn't share much, we'll still be friends, but we don't know ourselves that deep.
Now, distance does mad things to relationships. If I didn't feel like I heard, I would not have stayed.
Sometimes, people mess up. They do. Obviously, we all have levels of what we can take.
Because she wasn't Nigerian, there was a bit of an issue because my dad wasn't keen.
If I could live my life again, would I go for a long distance relationship? Definitely not.